Welcome, everybody. I would like to welcome you on the 9th of webinar in the series of Berlin Meet USA. My name is Magdalena Zawodny-Barabanov. I'm a project manager, international business at Association SIBB. Together with me, with Nikolai, we will be co-hosts of today's event, and hopefully we will go with you through the whole interesting agenda. If some of you don't know us, SIBB is a digital business association from Berlin-Brandenburg. And in frame of our project Point Out, we try to stimulate cooperation with international partners from US. Our project is supported by Senate Department for Economy, Energy and Public Enterprises here in Berlin. Before we go to the very interesting program we have for today, I would like to mention that today's event wouldn't happen if not the cooperation of many involved partners. Our partners who are always with us here in Berlin to support our Berlin Meet USA series are Berlin Partners for Wirtschaft and Technology and Berlin Business Office in New York. And today's event is powered by Georgia, who are co-hosts of today's event. And I would like to welcome you very warmly here from Berlin. We have already quite summer temperatures. I hope it's the same in Atlanta. And I would like to now to invite for the scene Kristi Brigman, Director of Corporate Solution and Cybersecurity from Georgia Department of Economic Development, to welcome our participants as a co-host.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here. She said, I'm Kristi Brigman, the Director of the Corporate Solutions and Cybersecurity team at the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Before we get started, I want to extend my thanks for inviting the state of Georgia to help kick this event off and for this important partnership between Berlin and Atlanta. We're very excited to be here and to kick off the 9th edition of Berlin Meets USA with exciting discussions on the FinTech ecosystem. I'm going to quickly provide a broad overview of Georgia, a little more information on the city of Atlanta, and then I'm going to pass it on over to my partners in this business who are far more interesting than I. So I'm going to give you a few highlights on the state of Georgia. We kicked off 2021 announcing more than 16,000 jobs were created across the state in projects for the first half of the year alone, generating nearly $6 billion of new investment. And just to put that in perspective, in Georgia, job creation is up 40% compared to the same time last year, and investment was up nearly 50%. We are home to world-renowned colleges and universities, the #1 workforce training program in the nation, a world-class port system, and consistently a pro-business environment. It's no surprise to us that these companies have achieved their goals and that Georgia has been named the #1 state to do business by Site Selection Magazine and Area Development Magazine for 8 years running. We are very proud of that. We're also proud of the countless large and small companies who are doing business globally to provide such a strong economic base for the state of Georgia. There's 18 companies with global headquarters in Georgia on the Fortune 500 list, and 33 companies ranked among the Fortune 1000. The most recent Fortune 500 and 1000 rankings, you recognize many familiar names. There's Georgia-based headquarters such as Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, Home Depot, NCR, UPS, just to name drop a few. We're encouraged by these companies who continue to see great success despite the worldwide pandemic we faced over the past year. I'd also like to highlight one very relevant new addition to the Fortune 500 list this year, Global Payments, which made the list for the first time. With its dual headquarters in Atlanta and Columbus, Global Payments has 7,000 employees based in the state of Georgia. Importantly, we have a global presence as well. With colleagues in strategic offices located all over the world, including Israel, Brazil, and the UK, we're fortunate to also have a strong team based in Germany. Helpfully, our colleagues set up this important event like this and serve also as a primary point of contact for European companies who are interested in establishing a presence in Georgia. Atlanta also has 81 consular or trade offices and 34 binational chambers of commerce. So a little more about Atlanta. Year over year, the Metro Atlanta region specifically has attracted solid jobs in software and technology and fintech. In February alone, both Microsoft and Airbnb, respectively, committed to making Atlanta one of their biggest national tech hubs. Both have made diversity, corporate partnership, and community outreach major focuses. Even before that, we've seen a variety of tech-related announcements as the city of Atlanta was named the #1 tech hub by Business Facilities magazine. Georgia's transformation into one of North America's most preeminent tech hubs is supported by our state's ability to attract and develop top talent. Each year, colleges and universities located within 250 miles of Atlanta produce over 1 million new graduates earning a bachelor's degree or higher. We cast a wide net for our top talent pool. The Atlanta University Center, which includes Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse College, Morehouse School of Medicine, and Spelman College, is the largest consortium of historically Black colleges and universities in the US, otherwise known as HBCUs. Private sector partners, including Georgia Power, Southern Company, Apple, and Microsoft, recognize the potential in the state's diverse talent pool and continue to invest in education and opening additional doors to economic opportunity within our minority communities. I also want to point out, in the past year, Georgia has produced at least 3 unicorns, which, as I'm sure you are aware, is the term for private companies that have reached billion-dollar valuations. Recently, Greenlight, SalesLoft, and Calendly all reached or surpassed that valuation mark. FinTech startup Backed earned that designation less than a year ago, building on others like Rubicon, Cabbage, OneTrust. Clearly, Georgia is a great place to be doing business. Georgia saw more than $2 billion in venture capital in 2020, which was an increase of over 142% from 2016. I know you're going to hear more about today. Georgia is the epicenter of FinTech, with nearly 70% of all transactions handled by payment processing firms located in Georgia. That's credit cards, debit card swipes, gift cards, you name it. The state's transaction alley is comprised of over 50 FinTech companies, which generate an annual revenue of $72 billion. The Georgia FinTech Academy is a collaboration between Georgia's FinTech industry and the 26 public institutions at the University System of Georgia, a talent development initiative that will power the future of our global economy. We're able to build on these numbers through our relationship and growing reputation. In the past 5 years through the end of January, Georgia has welcomed nearly 120 new expansions and locations and $735 million of investment. Recently, we were thrilled to announce that after a nationwide search, Deluxe chose Atlanta for its new headquarters for FinTech and Customer Innovation Center in Sandy Springs, Fulton County. Deluxe will be creating over 700 new jobs and investing $10 million into its Customer Experience Center. Their president and CEO, Barry McCarthy, indicated the choice of Atlanta was due to the talent, culture, optimism of Atlanta. In closing, I just wanted to extend my thanks for having us here today. We're very grateful to be partners, appreciate the outreach that everyone's doing, and really excited to be here and have this opportunity. So I know you'll enjoy hearing from our partners. So without further ado, thank you so much. Oh, I think you're on mute, Magdalena.
Yes, typical problem of the of 2020 and pandemic time. No?
Yes, absolutely. It's just a hallmark of the webinars we do these days.
Thank you for Mark, and thank you for your welcome words. Already during preparation phase, we realized how many commonalities and similarities are between Atlanta and Berlin, and it just even motivates us more to prepare this event, because there's many things to share and exchange of experiences. Before we start the content webinar, I would like to just give the last technical remark for all the participants. We of course encourage you to be active. We have our chat session for you. Please ask your question. We will try to present them to our speakers. We have today very rich and diverse and experienced variety of the speakers. So please use this opportunity and be active in asking questions. We try to answer at least for most of them. And as mentioned, the aim of this event, we wanted to compare and find similarities and answer what were the success factors for both ecosystem to be so successful and growing as emerging capital cities of fintech in Germany and US. And we thought that the best starting point would be to have a first overview about the more macroeconomical background of both ecosystems to better understand what was there, what need to be done to become such a successful ecosystem for fintech. And first, then we'll go out alphabetically. We will ask Atlanta. I would welcome for the stage Grant Wainscott from Metro Atlanta. Please share your experiences. What make Atlanta so successful, and in the more overview perspective.
Vielen Dank, Magdalena, und guten Tag alles. My name is Grant Wainscott. I am the Vice President in our Economic Development team at the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. We're a regional business organization representing all different kind of pieces of the economy that really move GDP growth. So, for today's discussion, of course, it's fintech, but we also work in cybersecurity and in supply chain and logistics and film and entertainment and bio, life science, medical. So if you think of all the pieces of an economy, if you think of in Berlin, all of the different areas that where the major employers are and where the growth areas are, that's what we represent for the Metro Atlanta region. And frankly, we're just so excited to be here because Berlin is such an important market and partner for Georgia and for Atlanta. We've got a lot of ties, economic and cultural and educational ties. And so being able to work more closely together is incredibly important for us. So thank you so much for having us as a region to talk about fintech. So you heard from Kristi, kind of the facts and the stats and why Georgia is such a powerhouse. I thought it might be helpful, if that's okay, Magdalena, maybe to let our viewers know a little bit about why Georgia is even in the fintech business. Give a little bit of history, and then we can kind of talk about where we are today. And then, I think we're going to hear the same from our Berlin friends about the growth of the Berlin ecosystem. So in the U.S., the country is divided into regions for our Federal Reserve Bank. So, the bank of the U.S. government has multiple regions around the country. And in Georgia, we're in the Southeast U.S. So we represent the 7 kind of Southeast states for our Federal Reserve Bank. And that was established in the early 1900s. So Georgia became that center for the Southeast for banking, just by default, by being the center of the Federal Reserve. But we became very adept for whatever reason. Obviously, nobody's around anymore to tell us why, but for some reason, our Federal Reserve was really good at processing checks and payments. So most of the reserves are known for something. They might be a mint where they're actually minting coin and bills, or it might be a processing center like Atlanta. So we got so good at it that the rest of the checks in the country started to come, through Atlanta. So we built up that business, and then of course you can imagine the paper companies that print the checks, the ink companies, that go on the checks, all of the technology, early technology that kind of came around that, and then the banking sector grew up. So we were a really important banking, region for the country from the early days. But then it really kicked in gear in 1969 when the Atlanta Fed and Georgia Tech launched an electronic payment study that ended up creating ACH. So ACH in 1973 was actually created right here in Atlanta. And for that automated clearinghouse system, that was an entirely new way of banking. So we've been in the ACH business, since the 70s. Fast forward, we were a big area for the pipeline for fiber, major fiber trunks going throughout the entire East Coast of the US come through Atlanta. So we grew data centers. And then the world's first internet bank relocated to Atlanta. I want to say it was 95, right around 1995, and that was Security First Network Bank. Shortly after that, we became one of the first, or not shortly, but thereafter, we became one of the first Bitcoin ATM locations, Bitcoin banks. And so we've developed this this 100+ year history of trying new things in banking and payments. And so Kristi mentioned, we're known as Transaction Alley. And that's really important because that's grown all of those companies that she mentioned, Global Payments, TSYS, FIS, now Deluxe, Ingenico, Fiserv, all these have, either their global or US or major headquarters here. But for us, FinTech is a lot more than just payments. We're credit and risk because we have Equifax and LexisNexis headquartered here. We're one of the largest reinsurance markets in North America. We invented prepaid, with Incom. We eventually essentially created, the Apple Pay and the Apple Card. So prepaid was invented here in Atlanta. The Hayes modem was invented in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. So we really look at FinTech as much as not only disrupting the traditional bank, payment rails, but everything else around that, from payments and loyalty, to travel tech, to reg tech. So we have this really deep bench of startups and fast movers. And Kristi mentioned, our unicorns like Greenlight and SalesLoft and others. But we also have this really robust pipeline of startups and startup accelerators and programs. So, for a region like Berlin, when your companies are looking to come to the US, looking to come to North America and looking for a launch pad, it's really important to have those support services. And so the same thing for us as our US companies are looking to go into Europe, having a support network where they know they'll have access to, market intelligence and consultants and, great partners like SIBB and others, around the world, who can help them make those connections and grow. So, again, I think the ties between, Berlin, Brandenburg, and Atlanta and Georgia, we're really in a lot of that same business of being able to provide that support ecosystem. So, I guess if I could leave our viewers with anything, it is long history, more than 100 years of history. The New York Stock Exchange is owned and controlled out of Atlanta, not New York. So markets and market movement, and then we own many more markets in that. Know that this is a region that has a deep history, and Kristi mentioned all the great assets and education and startups, and we're just really excited to learn more about the Berlin ecosystem and see how we can grow together and help add jobs and investment. So vielen Dank.
Yeah, thank you very much. Vielen Dank, Grant. Yes, we are sure that many similar things and many factors will probably on the Berlin side. So let's listen what are the factors of success in Berlin. So I would like to invite now for the scene Christian Segal, who is the head of sales team for digital industry at Berlin Sparkasse. And additionally, he is our co-host of Finance and FinTech Forum by SIBB. We have 13 different forums, and Christian is responsible and mentor of one of those Finance and FinTech Forum. So Christian, please, floor is yours. Please tell us what makes Berlin so successful in FinTech.
Magdalena, thank you very much for your introduction. Grant, thank you for your excellent and very interesting presentation about Atlanta. I'm happy that I have the possibility to give you a short overview about the FinTech scene in Berlin and the success factors we have here. I have some slides with me, and I'll try to show my screen just a moment.
Yes, we can see it.
Can you see my first page?
Yes,
okay,
we see it very well. Yeah.
That's fine. Berlin is the capital of Germany, the most important economy in Europe, but Berlin is not regarded as an economic power like London, Paris, or Munich for historic reasons, which I won't go into right now. But since 2008, Berlin has been the capital for startups in Germany. If we take the venture capital financing rounds, then Berlin was number 3 in Europe in 2020, behind London and Paris. Also for fintechs, Berlin is an attractive location. In 2019 and 2020, 52 fintechs were founded in Berlin. 35% of all new fintechs founded in Germany. Other indicators are the number and the volumes of financing rounds. Here are some figures from studies done by EY. On the slide, you can see the number of financing rounds. In Germany in 2019, we had 67 financing rounds. More of half of them were in Berlin. In 2020, we see the same trend. 54 fintechs got venture capital, 26 of them were located in Berlin. On the next slide, you can see the amount of the financing rounds. In 2019, more than 1.3 billion euro capital was raised. Berlin fintechs got 1 billion of this. In 2020, the numbers were a little bit lower. The amount in Germany was €500 million and 350 euro went to Berlin's fintechs. I want to add that in the first half of 2021, the trend was confirmed. In Berlin, we have seen huge financing rounds, for example, for the internet brokerage startup Trade Republic, the banking software startup Mambu, and the insurtechs VFox and Element. Next, I want to talk about why Berlin is so attractive for fintechs. Finally, and firstly, talents. Success factors in Berlin, at first, talents. A lot of fintechs were founded by former students. Berlin has 43 universities and 200,000 students. A lot of the universities support founders. For example, the Freie Universität Berlin and the Hochschule für Wirtschaft und Recht in Berlin. Culture and tolerance are also very important. Berlin is very attractive for young people from other parts of Germany, of Europe, and the whole world. Not only founders, but also employees have an international background. They are happy to be in Berlin because of the party scene and the high number of clubs and bars. In my opinion, Berlin has also a very tolerant atmosphere compared to other parts of Germany. Tolerance is a success factor of Berlin. Another aspect I want to mention, the costs of living and the rental costs are much higher than 10 years before, but still relatively low, at least in comparison to London or Munich or Frankfurt. I want to add another factor. We have a lot of fintech success stories here in Berlin. You will hear from some of them this evening later. Serial entrepreneurs and success stories are success factors for the fintech scene in Berlin. And last but not least, we have a strong ecosystem with a lot of incubators, accelerators, and also initiatives from the local government here in Berlin. Let us look to the future. Will Berlin continue to be interesting to fintechs? I'm relatively optimistic because I trust the Berlin ecosystem, but I look forward to discussing it later. That should be enough for you to have a short overview of the fintech scene here in Berlin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian, very much for this introduction. Yes, I could just confirm. I'm also not originally from Berlin, not from Germany, but I think Berlin is a big magnet for people from all over the world. Our international team, we come from 3 different countries as well. So it's really very vibrant, and I think it's important. I would add also to the clubs culture, also parks and other possibilities, which makes city very attractive. But I'm sure we'll have more time to and possibilities to discuss it also in context of the fintech. I just wanted to check if you have any question, but I guess it was just at the beginning of overview. I don't see it yet, but if our participants will find some questions still to Grant or Christian, please feel free to write them. And I think then I will give floor to Nikolai, who will moderate our panel discussion with our experts. Nikolai?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Magdalena, for the first part of our event. And of course, thank you, dear Grant and Christian, for providing such an overview for both cities. And I think now, equipped with all this knowledge and facts about Berlin and Atlanta, we can drive to the main question we are here today. So, why Berlin and Atlanta are so special, right? Why? Let's engage us into the direct discussion and find out together what is so great about two emerging fintech capitals. And now it's time for me to introduce our panelists. And I will focus on Atlanta first. And let's meet Nathan Regan, Vice President, Invest Atlanta. So Nathan, could you please tell us a couple of words about yourself?
I think Nathan's.
Okay, Nathan joins us in a couple of minutes. I think we can start then with Kristin. Kristin, are you here? Yeah.
I'm here. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristin Slink. I lead the FinTech vertical at ATDC, which is the Advanced Technology Development Center, and we are an incubator based in Atlanta, but we're actually funded by the state of Georgia, and our mandate primarily is to create more jobs. So, Kristi, I'm so glad that you brought in some of those metrics. It's basically at the heart of what we do. And we do that through supporting tech entrepreneurs. And we have the pleasure of hearing from 3 of our portfolio companies today later in the session. So I'm super excited about it. But I'm here to represent the early stage startups here in Atlanta. And so I'm happy to join the conversation. Thank you.
So this time, let's come back to Berlin, and let me welcome Alexander Plenk, Chief Finance Advisor from Berlin Finance Initiative. Alexander, could you please introduce yourself to us?
Yes, of course. Good afternoon to Germany, or good morning still to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Alexander Plenk. I'm a former capital markets banker. Since recently, I've been an independent senior advisor, especially to fintech companies. So I'd like to build bridges between the old and the new banking world. And this is the place to be between capital markets and fintechs. And today I'm here as an ambassador of Berlin Finance Initiative, which was established also recently to promote financial companies in the Berlin-Brandenburg area.
Thank you, Alexander. And now, last but not least, Nathan, stage yours. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Guten Tag, alles. My name is Nathan Regan. I am the Senior Vice President for Economic Development with Invest Atlanta, which is a City of Atlanta's economic development agency. Welcome to all of you. I work very closely with Grant and Kristi on making sure that we're pitching Atlanta as the destination for fintech for the country. And so certainly Grant and Kristi have stolen a little bit of our thunder because they said all the amazing things about what we have to offer here in Atlanta. But just so you're aware, we're here at the city to serve as a resource for any challenges, questions, issues that you might have. And certainly the state and Metro Chamber and Invest Atlanta are working together to make sure that you have all of the support that you might need, any connections you might need. So see us all as a resource, and so thrilled to have you in Atlanta today.
Okay, thanks everyone for your interest. And Nathan, please stay here. Let's drive directly to the point. Which factors are most important for the fintech success in Germany and America, in Atlanta in particular. And as you mentioned, your colleague Grant already mentioned some walkthrough about history of fintech in Atlanta. And I wanted to ask Nathan, what could you elaborate to this topic?
Well, look, I think Grant has really said it best, and he's given you a real good history of how we actually got to this point. I think it's very interesting when you have a city like Atlanta with its roots in fintech and how we've come to the place where we are today creates a momentum in the ecosystem that actually kind of feeds on itself. In the city of Atlanta, as Grant mentioned, we have a bunch of companies who actually grown in Atlanta, who have become unicorns in the city of Atlanta and the metro Atlanta area. And so, that ecosystem really starts to foster other small companies who want to actually be a part of that action. And so I think you have an ecosystem that starts to grow and thrive once you have those types of companies really becoming unicorns. And we see that here. It's an intentional creation of this ecosystem. FinTech South really helps us. We have venture capital in the city that helps stimulate these types of growth companies. And so I think, when you put all that together, you have a place like Atlanta that really is on the map for fintech.
Kristin, could I ask you to reflect on this topic from startup side? Why to become part of the Atlanta ecosystem?
Yeah, so I myself am a former fintech founder, and I think that connection and community are so important at an early stage, and that's really what we provide and foster in our environment. So a startup incubator is really meant for companies at various stages, at various sizes, and we really provide a lot of the core things that they need at that stage. So some things that we're focused on is coaching. So joining our program, you get assigned to a coach like myself who's been a founder before and gone through the journey. I'm a big proponent of sharing all the mistakes I made to help other founders avoid them. We also provide a lot of connections, and we have very specific programming to do so. So we have one person that connects us directly to Georgia Tech. So I did mention that we're funded by the state of Georgia, but we also fall under Georgia Tech's umbrella as well. And so we really help early stage startups connect with the university, primarily with talent. So we do a lot of job fairs, and we do connections to help find some people to bring into your organization, either from a full-time standpoint, part-time, or even an internship. We also connect to corporations. So as Grant, explained, we do have a lot of Fortune 500 companies located in Atlanta, and all of them are looking for innovation. And so what we really do in Foster is we try to connect the early stage startups to those corporations. One, for customer discovery, for them just to learn a little bit more about what those larger organizations need, but we also drive some paid pilots as well. So if you have any target customers that really fit into that, we like to make that connection. And then of course, there's a connection to the investment world as well. And so just recently we did an investor showcase focused on fintech, where we had our companies create a virtual booth. We invited our whole network of investors really across the country to take a look at our companies, and some companies had 20 or more funds that downloaded their information and started conversations that way. And then there's a really big community aspect too. You can learn so much more from other startup founders that may be in the same industry or different industries that really help foster that environment. One success story I do want to talk about that was brought up earlier is the unicorn Greenlight. Greenlight actually got started at ATDC. So they are an example of a program or a company that has really gone through the entire programming. They started really early on with customer discovery and quickly moved through to scale. And now they're a graduate, but also come back and help, really provide benefits to other companies as well in the form of sponsorship and getting involved in some of the topic conversations that we have. So we're really focused on early stage, companies all the way from inception to scale. So if you are an existing company in Germany, you're interested in tapping into the US market, I think Atlanta is a great place to do so. And us together will work on kind of figuring out what resources you need. We also have office space too, if you want to just spin up a location there. So we just really are fostering that early stage. And I hope that you guys can see some of the innovation by the 3 companies that are pitching today.
Thank you. I have wrote myself a couple of notes about launching business in Atlanta, especially early stage. And for now, dear Alexander, may I ask you to reflect on this words from Berlin side? Which drivers of innovation do we have here in Berlin?
Yeah, I think Christian already mentioned many important aspects, and there's also one question in the Q&A, why specifically Berlin became a magnet for startup centers of Germany and not Hamburg or Munich. And I think there's one or two things to mention. The first one, it's certainly a specific characteristic of Germany that there is a truly federal system. So not only regarding political affairs, but also in terms of the economy. You got very strong regions and then very strong cities. Everyone knows Frankfurt is the banking capital. Munich and Cologne are the insurance capitals. There are other strong cities and regions like Stuttgart, Düsseldorf, Hamburg, and Berlin. While it's the largest city in Germany and obviously the political capital, regarding the economic system, it's rather a weak region compared to other regions, especially in southern and western Germany. So then, how was it possible that Berlin became the capital of fintechs, especially, and this is also interesting, almost 2 decades after reunification? This is what Kristi mentioned, that as of 2008, we have this trend, and reunification, as everyone knows, was in 1990. And I think the simple reason is not that Berlin is just simply the biggest city in Germany, but it's still the most dynamic city, even 2 or now 3 decades after reunification. And this means it's highly attractive for young people. There's a strong mix of different cultures, which makes the city attractive. Also for foreign people. And then they just started in Berlin with many ideas coming from the financial world and from the tech world. So therefore, FinTech, they really met in Berlin, especially with all the universities where many ideas were also born. Well, this mixture just made it happen that this all kicked off in Berlin. And once, obviously, you start something and other people see, hey, there's something going on, then that's the place to be. And so it's a self-fulfilling, well, not a self-fulfilling prophecy, but maybe a virtuous cycle that Berlin has been experiencing since then. And this just goes on. Yeah, just look at the figures regarding formation of fintechs and startups in general. Berlin's the place to be. Also for the capital side, which is quite important, obviously, to grant seed capital or then venture capital. They've also learned that, well, it's nice to be in Frankfurt or Munich to attract clients who give the funds. But then if you look for something interesting to invest, then obviously there are many strong startups also in other regions of Berlin, but in Germany, but Berlin is simply also the startup capital.
Thank you, Alexander. And that is the topic of investment climate. And I think that's a great point to shift to Atlanta. And yeah, what could you say about investment climate in Atlanta and Georgia nowadays? Nathan, maybe you could tell us a couple of words.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think that the fintech sector is only going to continue to grow, and our ecosystem in Atlanta continues to grow. We see increased efforts and companies coming to the city of Atlanta from traditionally tech capitals around the country. So San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Boston, we see a lot of interest from companies moving from those high cost centers into the city of Atlanta, into the metro Atlanta area. And so I think that's only going to increase. I think some of that is going to be as a result of, shall we say, unintended consequences of COVID. People are able to work remotely these days. And so I think you'll see that there will be some movement in the ecosystem. And I think Atlanta and the state of Georgia and the metro area is certainly poised to take advantage of that. You know, certainly for the reasons we've mentioned, Atlanta's a great place to live, work, and play. And so I think you'll see that our fintech sector is going to continue to grow And for those reasons, I think it's really a good time to really look at the city of Atlanta and the metro area and the state of Georgia for opportunities to come and be a part of the ecosystem. I mean, look, if you're looking internationally, you probably already know that you have to really be embedded into an ecosystem to really get to know all the players and really become successful. You know, I've done a lot of trade and investment work over the years, and you know, it's only when you're embedded in that ecosystem and really get to be a part of that that you can actually understand all the players and take advantage of it. I'm sure Grant and Kristi will agree with me on that one.
Thank you for this point. And actually, raised again the cost of living, and maybe Kristin, as a representative also of Georgia Tech today, could say how actually is the living for young entrepreneurs and students in Atlanta? Can we name it a student city? Berlin is interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can serve as an example of someone who's recently moved to Atlanta. So I started my fintech company in San Diego, and I ended up moving out here 3 years ago. And so it's just a really great place to live. I mean, a lot of people are like coming from Southern California and living in Atlanta now, and are very surprised when I say that I just love it. I mean, take a look at Grant's background. What that is the Atlanta Beltline. It's this really cool inner city boardwalk, I like to say, where there's a lot of people exercising. There's a lot of green space. You know, Grant's doing some exercise now. You have huge park in the middle of Midtown, which is our center. There's just a lot to do. We're also a huge airport hub. So if you want to travel anywhere, it's really easy to get to with cheaper flights because it is, you know, a primary hub. And then the students, I mean, there's just so many universities in our area. It's just bustling with younger people, and you know, even those who have, you know, finished college and really called Atlanta their home. Midtown's a really big area. That's where Georgia Tech campus is. We actually at ATDC are located in Tech Square, which is an area that has a lot of innovative early stage companies, but also a lot of innovation centers for some of the larger corporations. For Delta, for example, one of our airlines, they have an innovation center called the Hangar in our building. So there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of people getting together. There's green space. I mean, our weather, you know, does get a little bit humid, but I would say it's definitely a lot more pleasant than I originally thought coming from Southern California. So I didn't have to stay here, and I chose to stay here just because there's just so many resources. And I'm sure you've heard the term Southern hospitality. That is definitely true of our ecosystem, and just a testament. I mean, we all that are representing Atlanta today do work together. So it's just really a great environment to foster that growth, the innovation, and just attracting, you know, people internationally to our city as well as a big hub.
So maybe if I can add from the Berlin side, there are many things in common between Atlanta and Berlin. I think everything you mentioned about the attractiveness of the city. Nevertheless, I think there's one thing that Berlin definitely would have to learn from Atlanta, and this is how to build and manage an airport.
Okay, so Alexander, thanks for
that. I actually caught that joke. I actually think that's a really funny joke. You meant that as a joke, right, Nicolette?
Yeah, obviously as a joke, because I mean, Atlanta, as far as I know, is the largest airport in the US. Is that correct? Or even the world, with the highest passenger frequency or something. And Berlin now, half a year ago, managed to open its unified German capital airport 30 years after reunification, and I think 10 years after plan. So
yeah. And you know, Alexander, you're making such a good point. You know, and I'm sure that Grant and Kristi both would agree with me that, you know, when we talk about the resources about what makes Atlanta a real place to invest or a really great place for an ecosystem building, you know, the airport, that airport is like one of our best assets. You know, if you're looking at, you know, going anywhere in the world, you know, you're available to use that airport. It's the busiest one in the world, or soon will be again the busiest one in the world. And, you know, when you talk about, you know, global trade and investment, you know, that is an asset that I think is like one of our best assets, just for the connectivity piece alone.
And really quickly, before we move on, I just wanted to do a quick plug. So I am co-chairing the biggest FinTech conference in the Southeast called FinTech South. It's happening next week. It is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we actually on Wednesday have an entire day dedicated to world stage, is what we call it, where we're really showcasing FinTech across the globe. So there's a discount code in the chat over there to save $25. So I definitely encourage you to join in on the great conference where we're going to be showcasing a lot of the innovation in FinTech, not just in Atlanta, not just in the US, but really across the world. So please join us.
And please allow me to add something on the investment climate from the German perspective. When you look at the figures, not only in the US, but especially in Europe and Germany, regarding venture capital, we are at absolute record highs. So we were there in 2020, and especially in Q4 of 2020, but also in Q1, and the first figures we can see from Q2, it's even higher than that, with the number of deals being stable or going down a bit, but valuations or deal volumes and therefore valuations just are going up and up. And this also makes me very positive for the future, as Kristin mentioned in his presentation about Berlin. But obviously many people see that, and entrepreneurs are just attracted by this, and they can see, hey, with a good idea, I can attract capital. So let's go for it. And when we look just at the central bank policy here in the Eurozone, at the rate policy, and where, as we always say, triple N rates, yeah, that there's either no rate or a negative rate, or well, in English it's low, in German niedrig, therefore triple N rate environment. Therefore also investors, they are just climbing up the risk ladder, investing more and more in the early stages. Yeah, so investors, or even VC investors, that were Series A or B some years ago, they are now looking for seed or even pre-seed. And this means, or it's a good sign for young entrepreneurs to just kick off with their project because they know they're able to find capital to fund their ideas. So also from the investment climate perspective, it's very positive for new startups in Germany, especially in Berlin.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alexander. And with all these topics, there's one question we have now: how to accelerate maybe the communication between two capitals. What can be done, and which obstacles we have for that synergy. And who would like to start to talk on this question?
Well,
okay, maybe Alexander, you
first. It's another city in Germany to replicate the success of Berlin. I mean, as I mentioned before, once you are the capital, then it's tough for the challenger. Just to build it up again. Yeah? Obviously, we can see, and this is once again the difference to other countries such as the UK, where fintechs are just London-based, full stop. Yeah. So obviously, you have a very big fintech scene also in Munich and in Frankfurt, and obviously there's always a competition between these three cities for new startups. And then maybe one day we will see that one of the others is taking over Berlin. So obviously one can't say that from today's perspective, but once again, when you look at the dynamics and the attractiveness of Berlin simply as a city, then I think this is something that you simply cannot repeat as another city. So if there's a certain culture and certain dynamics in the city, especially, never forget, Berlin has 3.5, almost 4 million inhabitants, yeah, which is more than Frankfurt and Munich in total, yeah, or it's even double than the two of them. Yeah. So this is really hard to replicate. So therefore, you would have to find another USP, so to say, but maybe for other industries and not fintech startups.
Okay, so Nathan, what do you think on that? What is the USP of Atlanta?
Well, look, I think, having these types of introductory calls and really trying to make a bridge between the ecosystems, I think is really a great first start. Certainly Grant and I and the state, we're all working in concert together internationally to make those connections. And so I think this is a good start for the conversation. I think at some point, we'd love to visit on your side. We certainly want you guys to come and be part of the ecosystem in Atlanta. And so, making these connections first and foremost, I think is the right way to start.
Actually, I just wonder when will be the time when we could be physically present in Atlanta. We're just hoping.
I think France just opened up. So is Germany not open yet for travel?
Germany is open for travel, yeah, of course. So I think so. Within the European Union now, it's much easier, yeah. So, but I think from certain countries, also from other continents, you can travel to Germany or the European Union again.
So at this point, I would like to ask our audience, is there any more questions to our speakers? And maybe there are some remarks from your side before we move to the next session. What we have understood today, at first, that both cities have wonderful airports, and that it's great to have business in both of the cities. They're both vibrant, active, inviting newcomers and new businesses to them. And as far as we understand, great ecosystems, they also produce great ideas, great innovators. And I think we are ready now to continue with the pitch sessions that we have for today. And I would like to ask, first of all, I would like to thank one more time our experts for joining these insights and trying this real direct dialogue between two emerging capitals. And I would like to ask Kristin to provide some welcome words about the pitch session we are going to have right now.
You met me?
Yes, just some welcome words before you continue with the pitch session about the startups from Atlanta and the insights I can present.
So I had mentioned that 3 of our portfolio companies are pitching in front of you guys today, all 3 companies that I'm super excited about. So we have Definance, who is changing up the student lending space. As I'm sure you guys take a look at the US market, that seems to be a very convoluted space, and that's true. We also have Andrew Bate of Safely, who has a really unique take on insurance for homeowners when they want to rent out their spaces. And then we also have TrustStamp, who's one of our recent graduates. So they've graduated the program and they have a really great biometric product and also help with a lot of regulations, so to speak. I saw that was one of the questions on there about issues of regulations as a big obstacle. And I think Andrew can provide some light onto that. And I'm sorry, I don't know much about the German-based companies, but I'm really excited to learn more about them.
Thank you, Kristin. Thank you for providing introduction to Atlanta-based companies. And before we switch to the pitch session, I would remind you some basic rules. We have 2 of them. First one is that company has 3 minutes strict, a part of the introductory part and setting up sharing the screen. And the second rule is that during these 3 minutes, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so let us start with Definance Atlanta. Farouk, I think you're on mute.
Hi everyone, how are you guys? Thank you for inviting us. I can share my screen?
Yeah, sure. And let me know where I should start the counter.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me get this thing queued up. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, very good.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, you can start the counter.
Okay, started.
Today, 7 out of 10 college students have student debt. So even if you're not impacted by student loans, odds are that a family member, friend, or someone else you care about is experiencing the financial and mental trauma of student debt. So I'm Farouk Siddiqui, founder and CEO of DeFinance, and we're here to tackle the student debt crisis in a very different and innovative way, and responsible way also. So we're different because we don't lend money. We refinance student loans with income share agreements or ISAs. An ISA is basically an income-based repayment plan without the shackles of interest or debt. And we're responsible because we pay off and remove student loans from the credit report and couple that with career support resources and even a cash return at the end. And our end-to-end ISA process is simple, automated, and always consumer-focused. Now, on one side of our marketplace is ISA-powered student loan refinancing, from which we earn revenue from one-time processing fees. And on the other side is the ISA Credit Investment Fund. We earn revenue from recurring servicing and management fees from the fund, which invests in our ISA customers. And investors seeking lower volatility like fixed income receive passive income returns that are comparable to equities. And both sides of our marketplace benefit from the career support resources that provide complementary career counselors, recruiters, job listings, upskill resources, and more. This not only helps optimize income and minimize unemployment of our ISA customers, but also mitigates risk and improve returns of our ISA credit investors. And we've really done a lot with very little. We built an algorithm to provide risk-adjusted ISA pricing, determined our entry point into a $315 billion market segment with the most expensive student debt, refinance multiple ISA loans, student loans with ISAs, and have a growing pipeline of ISA refinancing applications that is now approaching $8 million. And for Thomas and I, my co-founder, this is our third startup together. Plus, we have an extensive corporate background. We know how to develop and bring alternative financial products to market. And so we are the team tailor-made to take on the student debt crisis because we know how to mitigate financial risk and optimize investor returns. Now that DeFinance is ready for acceleration, we're raising a pre-seed round. We just graduated from Techstars program. And we hope to refinance through $5 million in student loans with off-balance sheet credit capital, build a scalable marketing engine, and launch the next version of our product so that after focusing on these milestones, we'll be ready to raise seed capital in 2022. So let's empower financial freedom together by investing in the stability, diversity, and earning power of the educated American workforce so we can help revitalize our country's great middle class into the vibrant force it has always been. Thank you for the opportunity to pitch here today.
Thank you very much. And let's proceed direct with our only Berlin-based company for today, Hippocrates.
Awesome.
Let's check
Thank you.
If you could share the screen, everything is working.
Give me a second. You guys let me know as soon as you can see something. Awesome. I see summed up. So let me share, and as soon as I share, you can start the clock. So, hi, I'm Yasha, and I'm one of the co-founders of Hippocrates. The world we're living in is getting more and more complex, especially for companies such as banks, which are regulated and need to be compliant. Every 12 minutes, a regulatory change happens, which needs to be analyzed and, if applicable, implemented. In 2004, a bank had to deal with 10 regulatory changes per day compared to 185 changes today. So it is no surprise that more and more banks get fined for their non-compliance. But the fine is just the tip of the iceberg because it does not include the severe reputational damage, the cost of crisis management, nor the executive lawsuits. Compliance is a global phenomenon, and banks invest vast amounts to meet regulatory requirements. Year after year, these investments are growing here in Berlin as well as in Atlanta. But banks struggle to implement compliant processes because to keep up with the number of regulatory changes per day is very complex and often performed manually or by consultants, which is expensive. And that is why Hippocrates is simplifying the process of being compliant with regulatory changes. The solution we have is able to keep up with the number of regulatory changes per day and is simplifying the regulatory complexity in a cost-efficient way. Our software as a service solution observes and constantly updates the regulatory landscape. We convert regulations with artificial intelligence into rule sets, which we store centrally. To master the complexity to understand the applicable requirements to your business, we translate your use case into a tailored rule set. We keep your tailored rule set up to date so you can have a peace of mind. We are currently focusing on, as we call them, product families, which cover the areas of data privacy and banking controls, such as Basel III and IV. But our compliance engine can be applied to many more use cases in the future. All our product families are subscription-based. Our USP is our proactive approach to manage compliance by design. We leverage the latest technology to easily integrate into your ecosystem and use its cost advantages. Compared to our competitors, we take a holistic approach to not only make you compliant by design, but also over lifetime. We gain traction with POCs for each product family, and we are actively engaging with academic institutions to always be ahead of the curve. Since we've been founded, we were able to get the first friendly customer and took part in an accelerator. Now we're looking for funding to fuel our company's growth. The team of Hippocrates has an extensive experience in dealing with regulatory compliance in various industries. And we are here to talk, to either give you more information about Hippocrates, or if you're interested in working together with us. So let's put words into action. Scan the QR code if you want to facilitate a trial or pilot together, so we can, or you can better experience the ease of implementation of our product. We know that it's good. Or if you would like to also experience the positive impact on cost. If you're an investor and would like to invest in the company which has cracked the code to manage regulatory compliance proactively, then scan the code also. Thank you so much for listening in.
All right. Thank you for making it exactly in 3 minutes. That's wonderful and insightful. And thank you for
As I would have practice for it, right? So Kristin knows how much, and Farouk most likely as well, how many pitch sessions you have to hit the 3-minute marks. You can wake us up in the middle of the night and we, boom, are there for 3 minutes.
That's super. Okay, next session, Safely Atlanta.
Hello, thank you. I'm Andrew Bate from safely.com here in Atlanta. As I share my screen, I just want to mention that I am in Berlin at least once a year for the ITB travel conference. My favorite hotel is the Westin because that's where Bourne Identity was filmed. So I always feel like I'm Jason Bourne whenever I'm in the hotel. No one cares, but I think I'm pretty cool. But anyway, here we are. We're safely.com. We're an ATDC company. And what we do is we solve a homeowner's biggest problem when they're renting their home on Airbnb or booking.com. There's an internet stranger coming into their house, sleeping in their bed, using their stuff. And so we help that homeowner feel more comfortable by doing 3 things. First, we provide $1 million of primary commercial insurance. From $0 up to $1 million, we're covering damage to the home structure, its contents, and its guests. And we also help you feel comfortable with who that guest is. We're verifying their identity. We're checking for felonies. We check sex offender lists, things we can do in the US. And of course, the rules are a little bit different in the EU. And then we built a risk score so we can predict how risky that guest and that reservation is. And here's how it looks. Our fee replaces the damage deposit a guest would normally see. So it's on any booking site because we've actually integrated with 15 of the leading property management systems, the back office software platforms that homeowners and property managers use, which means any reservation, we can be on when you need insurance and we can be off when you don't need insurance. And we protect everyone. We protect the owner, we protect the guest, and we make the booking platform safer because when both parties trust one another, the marketplace is more efficient and more trustworthy. And we've also turned what used to be a fixed cost that a property manager has, we turn that into a profit center because now the guest pays for this insurance cost that covers the homeowner and the property manager. So our partners earn money from this program rather than this being a cost they have to prepay every year. We've been growing really fast. Since COVID, people are traveling differently and they want to stay in a private home instead of going into this hotel with 150 other people. And so you can see an annual growth rate of 179% since last May. And we're at about the $5.5 million revenue rate now. And it's continuing to grow really fast, especially this last year and a half. We've also been able to collect really good performance data because we get to know the guest at the time of booking, and then we pay every insurance claim. So we have really good data about what makes a good guest and a bad guest. And as you can imagine, There are some high-risk guests, about 14%, who are causing 70% of the bad stays. So this predictive analytics is really, really helpful. We're a team of 10 here, again, in Atlanta, but we're about to launch to the EU and UK by the third quarter of this year, and Germany plays a really big part of that. So thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. You even have 15 seconds more.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about Berlin then, because I love it.
We also love it, and now we love Atlanta. Speaking with that, TrustStamp, we would like to hear your pitch now.
Perfect, thank you. Andrew, I'll take those 15 seconds from you because I'm probably going to be a little bit long-winded, and I'll go ahead and just pull up my slides now. So thank you everyone for your time today and for bearing with me. My internet has been a little bit strange today. So again, I appreciate you bearing with me. If everyone can see my screen, we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling. So my name is Andrew Gawasak, and I am the president and a co-founder of TrustStamp. So as many of you are probably well aware of this point and tired of hearing, participation in the digital world really requires access to a secure, private, as well as a trusted identity. And obviously with things like COVID, in-person interactions have been very much limited. And so that's made the need for a strong digital identity more important than ever. But with more traditional identity factors like your name, your address, your national ID number, compromised with over 36 billion records lost in 2020 alone, we're starting to see a push for new identity factors to be included. So you're seeing a growing number of industries starting to use data like biometrics, things like your face, your fingerprints, your palm. And that's largely because of their ubiquity, but also their ease of use. But the problem is that we are sitting on a biometric data time bomb. So after a biometric is captured, something called a template is generated, and a template is highly sensitive and it can't be reset like your password if that data is ever lost in a hack or a breach. So before I get into more details of how TrustStamp is used today, I want to give a quick overview of how most image-based biometric capture works. So a lot of it starts with capturing a picture of any physical feature, and that generates that template that I mentioned before. And this could be anything like the distance between your eyes, or think about the distance between the ridges on your hand. All of those go together to make that template. And since biometrics are the password that can never be changed, TrustStamp goes even further. And we use our AI to convert the biometric template into a 512-byte hash, which we call the IT2. And this is short for irreversibly transformed identity token. Once we have the IT2, we can delete the picture as well as the biometric template and allow you to use the biometric via our IT2 without those privacy and security risks. So the IT2 is useful at enrollment as well as for ongoing fraud detection. And here we see our duplicate identity detection feature. So imagine John Smith goes into, let's say, a bank and applies for credit. He fills out his standard information, such as his name, his address, his social security number, and we ask him to take a selfie, which is then converted into an IT2. Next, this person comes back, but this time he's Adam Brown. Since we ask him again to take a selfie, we can compare those IT2s to determine, is this the same person we saw before, but with a different name? And so we can identify that this is a stolen identity. And all of this can be done without storing any pictures or biometric templates, all just using that security and privacy first IT2. So with TrustStamp, you'll have at least 3 different security factors. That includes knowledge-based factors such as name, address, ID number, birthday, as well as possession factors, things like your device ID, IP address, device signature, geolocation, etc. And of course, your biometric factor. And with these 3 factors, you'll be able to increase the protection of your institution as well as for your customers. So our global team is based out of the US and Atlanta, as well as Cheltenham in the UK and Malta. And we work with both enterprise and government partners. And our technology has been deployed on-premise, in the cloud, or even via API and SDK. And we follow a very simple pay-per-transaction business model. And we've deployed that technology successfully with 3 different S&P 500 financial service providers, including MasterCard. So whether you're looking for an easy-to-use enrollment tool, an anti-fraud solution, or a new identity factor to comply with regulations like PSD2, I'd be happy to connect with any of you afterwards. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, Andrew, thank you. I definitely took the time from other startups, but that was a great presentation, so nothing to blame. Yeah, well, we have heard today 4 or 5 and really fresh business ideas, and I want to shout out to all investors and institutional partners watching our webinar. Please contact these startups and you will find really great collaboration working with them. And for now, I want to address one open question which we have that's named: what licenses would we need to have in place if we find customers in Berlin, Germany? Anything specific for fintech businesses? Does this take a long time to get if I'm from a foreign country? And what I want to say, we have here some representatives of Georgia Development Office, different institutions, from Berlin Business Office, from Berlin Partner, and we all will be now on our networking part of this event that we host due to technical possibilities, due to technical difficulties in Zoom meeting, not in Zoom webinar. And I'm going to share now the link in our common chat, and I would like to ask you to join by this link and ask this question again in breakout rooms to hear a really personalized and extended answer. So please read the chat now, join the meeting after closing remarks. And for exactly closing remarks, I would like to invite Magdalena back to the stage.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nico. Thank you very much, all the startups or the experts. Thank you, all participants, to taking time to join us for today's session. I hope it woke up the interest even more about both of the ecosystems. As mentioned before, we would like to now invite you for the networking session where we will have opportunity to talk in a bit smaller group. Yes, Nico just right now shared the link to joining this meeting. There will be 4 different breakout rooms. You can choose one to join. We created one for Atlanta. If you want to talk about more about the Atlanta ecosystem, one about Berlin. We also propose some one-to-one sessions when you maybe would like to talk with somebody in specific. And I hope you can join us, and you will join us for another our events in frame of Point Out project. Thank you very much, and hope to see all of you in the networking session. And just as mentioned before, discount code for FinTech South was sent to all the participants in your reminders, so feel free to use it. And then you can really learn more about Atlanta ecosystem as well. I hope we can I will see you soon in meeting. Thank you very much.
I try to share it in each possible way. I would just add that we also share the really one question survey in Mentimeter during our session. And from here, I see we all switch to Wartezimmer, and I leave the session by now and see you in Zoom meeting.